A few months ago, Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb submitted a research paper about 3I Atlas, the interstellar object now passing through our solar system. The editor accepted the paper, but only after removing one sentence. A single line that suggested 3I Atlas might be far smaller than we assumed, or that it had deliberately targeted the inner solar system on its way past the sun. The editor told him, "Remove that sentence, or the paper doesn't get published." Loeb removed it. And then, because that's the kind of scientist he is, he wrote an entire follow-up paper exploring that idea in even more detail. That second paper passed peer review too, and the same editor ran to the media and called it nonsense on stilts. That's where our story begins. Because NASA has just released the sharpest images yet of 3I Atlas from the HiRISE camera aboard the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. Images taken weeks ago, but delayed during the government shutdown and internal review. By the time you're hearing this, those images are everywhere. And this video isn't just about whether 3I Atlas is natural or artificial. It's about something bigger. Are we watching science unfold, or watching a managed narrative shape how we're supposed to think about it? To follow this story, you need a protagonist. That's Avi Loeb. Loeb isn't a fringe outsider. He's a Harvard professor, the former chair of the astronomy department, author of more than 1,000 papers, and head of multiple research institutes. He's an actual player on the field. His critics, the loudest public voices, are the commentators. They don't publish original research on this object. They tell the public what to believe about it. Loeb describes the situation like a soccer match. The players can score goals. The commentators can't. They just tell the audience what's reasonable to believe. The commentators immediately told the world, it's just a comet. Unusual, yes, but natural. Nothing more. Loeb's position is different. He says, based on the anomalies we're seeing, we have to leave the door open to a technological origin, not because it's likely, but because the consequences are enormous. A 1% possibility with a world-changing outcome is not something you treat as fringe. It's something you investigate carefully. But the system doesn't like uncomfortable possibilities, and that's where things start feeling like a psyop. A psyop isn't always men in a basement pushing buttons or some secret task force running a mind game. Most of the time it's quieter than that. It's when an institution decides the public can't be trusted with the full picture, so they manage the narrative instead of the information. They tell you the safe version first. They frame the story before you've even seen the data, and they nudge you toward the conclusion they prefer, so gently you barely notice it's happening. It's not about lying outright. It's about shaping perception while keeping the messy parts out of sight. So what is 3I Atlas, as far as we actually know? It's the third confirmed interstellar object ever detected. It isn't bound to our sun. It's just passing through. Its orbit is unusually aligned with the plane of our planets, within a few degrees. Loeb estimates the chance of that alignment being random at roughly 1 in 500. Not impossible, but definitely not trivial. It also passes close to Venus, Mars, and Jupiter, a combination that is statistically rare unless the object's trajectory was shaped long before it even entered our solar system. Spectroscopy shows abundant water ice, but the gas composition is strange. We're seeing extreme CO2 enrichment and unusual ratios that don't match typical comets from our own system. And the shape of the coma is genuinely unusual. Multiple tails, an anti-tail pointing toward the sun. Thin, finely structured jets that look surprisingly directional. One of the newest images, taken on November 15th in Thailand, shows a bright anti-tail and at least one normal tail at the same time. That shouldn't happen in a simple comet model. Radiation pressure should push dust away from the sun. Here, something bright is projecting back toward it. Scientists have proposed several explanations. Very large dust grains that resist radiation pressure. Icy fragments that evaporate before forming a classic tail. Or, more controversially, tightly collimated jets, possibly behaving like thrusters, driving material sunward at unusually high speeds. These explanations may evolve. The point is, the phenomenon is not fully understood. Meanwhile, NASA captured high-resolution, HiRISE images weeks ago and didn't release them. A government shutdown paused operations. Internal processes delayed the release further. And in that silence, media commentators cemented a reassuring narrative. Nothing unusual, nothing artificial, just a weird comet. Then the independent images arrived. Anti-tails, strange jets, composition puzzles. Suddenly the story didn't feel so tidy. And now, with the public paying attention again, The long-delayed HiRISE data has finally been released. Does that automatically mean there's a coordinated Psyop? No, but the pattern feels familiar. First, reassure the public early, before the important data is out. Second, delay the high-stakes images while the safe narrative settles in. Third, release the images as a final stamp of authority, not as data for open investigation. Fourth, portray anyone who kept questioning as overreacting. That's the playbook. You've seen it before. Whether intentional or not, the effect is the same. Public curiosity gets framed as irrational, gatekeepers look wise, and a real scientific mystery gets flattened into a headline-friendly shrug. Loeb sees this dynamic clearly. He points out that many critics behave like AI models trained only on solar system comets, so everything unfamiliar must be jammed into the same category. That's why they reached for terms like dark comet when Oumuamua accelerated without visible outgassing. It keeps the anomaly inside the vocabulary they already understand. Loeb says we need to expand the training set. We know that civilizations, ours included, launch technological artifacts into space. That means device should be on the list of possible categories, not the default, not the preferred explanation. Just allowed. That's all he's arguing for. And yet the resistance he faces is anything but scientific. It's emotional, institutional, reputational. Because some ideas threaten the hierarchy of who gets to decide what the public is allowed to believe. Now that the HiRISE images are out, here's what you should be watching for. Do officials acknowledge what the images can't answer? Images can show structure, but they can't explain composition or orbital fine-tuning. Do they openly admit the anomalies that remain? The CO2 ratios, the alignment, the anti-tail, the jet geometry, none of these vanish just because a picture looks comet-like. How do they talk about Avi Loeb? As a scientist raising legitimate questions? Or as a caricature, the alien probe guy, whose arguments can be dismissed without engaging? And most importantly, do they tell you the technological hypothesis is impossible or merely unlikely? Those two statements live on opposite ends of scientific integrity. And in the end, this story isn't about 3i Atlas alone. It's about whether we, as a species, can stay curious when something truly unusual enters our neighborhood. Maybe every anomaly will get a tidy, natural explanation. Maybe this really is just a highly processed interstellar comet with exotic chemistry. Or maybe this moment will be remembered for something else. The moment we watched how public perception is shaped whenever reality invites us to think bigger than we're supposed to. Avi Loeb keeps saying he doesn't care about being popular. He cares about following the evidence, even when the evidence leads somewhere uncomfortable. You don't have to agree with him, but you should want scientists like him in the room. Because if one day we do confirm that an interstellar visitor is technological, whether it's this one or one that arrives decades from now, the story won't be about who won a debate. It'll be about who kept an open mind when it mattered. If you've stayed with me this long, thank you. And if you found this useful or interesting, a like or a comment genuinely helps the channel reach more people. Stay curious. Keep looking for the pieces that don't quite fit, and I'll see you in the next one.